the secular Jew sees this guy with a black hat and a black coat, and he goes up to him and he says, you know what, you guys make my people look ridiculous and our religion look ridiculous. Why don't you guys just enter the modern world? This and that. And the guy looks at him and he says, oh, we're not Jewish, we're Amish. And they're like, oh, sorry. We have such a beautiful culture and religion. We admire you.
That's nice.
Yeah, most people know that secular Jews really don't like religious Jews. This whole notion of achdut, of unity, this movement that, oh, we're all on the same boat, is not an idea shared with secular Jews, with religious people, or at least Orthodox, especially.
I mean, let's be honest, though. I mean, the religious kind of hide their hatred for secular Jews, too, right? I mean, a lot of Chabadniks, they go out and they wrap tefillin on secular Jews, but they hide the fact that they don't really like those type of people. I mean, they say it in public, but in private, they don't feel the same way.
Right. Well, I think Chabad's the exception of them all. I mean, Chabad, I'm very convinced they would give the shirt off their back for a secular Jew. But if you would ask them, could your daughter date or marry a secular Jew? They'll say, hell no.
Right.
So it's kind of like, what's that Dave Chappelle episode? He's like, Michael Jackson didn't do it. Do you let your kids go to his house? He's like, hell no.
We got a brother out here called Jay Castillo. He says Rav Asher makes a huge blanket statement. Oof, rough. He's calling you out. My grandfather was not a religious Jew, but he loved religious Jews. I mean, I don't think you were making technically a blanket statement. You were just saying,
right, clearly,
generally,
I'm saying the majority of secular Jews. I'm not saying irreligious Jews. I'm saying Jews on the left, especially Israeli secular Jews. They hate Haredim. Now, over there, they have other reasons for not liking Haredim. One, because they don't serve in the military. Two, because their political parties really just exist to barter more money for large families. So in America also, those...
Yeah, sure. Barbara Streisand, Bernie Sanders types. They don't like religious people either. Matter of fact, they hate religion. They hate God.
Right. I posted on somebody's wall today, because I don't know, like, you guys heard about this whole upheaval that's happening in the state of Israel with God TV.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Tovia Singer just put out a video on that.
Right. Yeah, so Tovia Singer and now Michael Skobac.
Is God TV a Christian
Yes,
channel?
yes.
Right.
It's a Christian channel that now broadcasts. Well, before, it used to broadcast in Israel anyways, but now it's going to be broadcast through Hot. So Hot is the Israeli version of DirecTV. So if you're able to read between the lines, that you're able to see the argument that Tovia Singer and Michael Skobac are really making here. Okay, first of all, I posted on what they wrote on the issue, being that Orthodox people in Israel rarely have a television, okay, that the only people that this is actually going to reach are irreligious Jews. Don't forget, the latest poll that was taken is that 54% of born Jews identify as atheist. Not agnostic, atheist. Wouldn't it be better if every atheistical left-wing Jew is not going to become Orthodox? Wouldn't it be better if they adopt some form of Judeo-Christian movement, some form of ethical monotheistic or semi-monotheistic movement, than remaining ethical? And of course, everyone jumped on me. Oh no, better that they remain atheist than become Messianic or Christian.
I mean, it goes to what, I mean, I say this to you like almost all the time, Rabbi, you know where I stand on this. I mean, Jewish people don't have much for themselves. Now you're going to get our television stations now too? Come on.
No.
How
this
much
is in the state of Israel.
We don't have to keep hearing about him. Do we need him on the television too?
So there's channels in Israeli television that play pornography, channels that teach communism. There are channels that teach atheism. That we really have to pick our battles here. Do we think that we have more in common with atheistical Jews than Messianic Jews? I mean, if anything, it would behoove us to take credit for Christianity instead of saying that it has nothing to do with us, because it poses a question that can another belief system be ethical without Torah? And my argument is no. And Christianity is my biggest proof, because Christianity is an offshoot of Torah. Right? Christians, I'm not even talking about Messianics here. Christians follow a guy who claims to have kept commandments. He claims to be an extension or a fulfillment of this long line of individual moral training passed down through the children of Israel. We should take credit for that. We should say every time a Christian or a Messianic does something that the Torah endorses as uplifting and evil destroying this world, Jews should be able to take credit for that. But if we constantly call them idolaters, honestly, right? I mean, idolaters in the Torah were people who were like sacrificing their babies to Molech or defecating in front of Baal Peor. It would benefit us to be able to claim a piece of their prize, saying, no, well, the reason you're ethical is because of us. But we're not able to say that if we constantly put up a barrier and say, no, you guys are full-blown idolatry and not just a misguided Jewish sect.
What you were saying, if it was a sect, like it was Reformed Judaism, Conservative Judaism, you had Christianity,
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
but that's not the way it is.
So ceremonially, modern-day Christianity, I'm not talking about Hebrew roots or Messianic Judaism, does not resemble Judaism, but ethically it does.
Yes, that's the absolute truth.
Right. So ethically is ultimately what matters. The ceremonial is there to guard the ethical, right? But the ethical is the base.
It's not. I mean, you can't really say Christianity is as ethical as Judaism. I mean, it may be somewhat ethical.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if we continue calling Christianity full-blown idolatry, we won't be able to take
Well, it's
credit
half. It's sheep tooth. It's
for
half.
their we won't be able to take credit for their achievements.
Well, we shouldn't take that as an achievement. Why would we want to take credit for Christianity that for responsible for the deaths of billions of Jews throughout history?
No, but we're talking about today. I'm not talking about.
You don't think Christians will tell you that when Jesus comes back, Jews are going to be exterminated. They're the first to go.
No.
Who told you? Who told you that?
Yeah, that's
Who told you that? That's
Anyone who doesn't believe in Jesus Christ is condemned to hell.
Listen, in Israel, several years ago, whatever, there was this Orthodox guy that took a knife in the gay parade and started stabbing people all over the world, right?
Okay.
And the thing is, are we going to say that this is? Are we going to say that this is typical of Judaism?
Right. It's like when people use. It's like when people use the argument of like a Christian that blew up an abortion clinic. Yeah, one guy out of history. Yeah, I get it.
This isn't part of the text of the profession of faith of people who claim to be believers in the God of Israel, right? I mean, we're talking about when Nazi Germany professed to do things in the name of the writings of Martin Luther and other people. This is not
they were disgusting people.
These are not the teachings of Yeshua, Jesus, right?
Absolutely.
So then, so you got to be careful when you're saying these things. You just read a comment about.
If you read
Hebrew, hold on for a second. You just read a comment about people just speaking in blanket statements about Rabbi Asher. You just did the same thing.
Satan. According to Christianity, the Jewish people, the synagogue of Satan. We have the mark of the beast, the tefillin on our hand and between our eyes.
Okay, let's pause for a second. Let's pause.
That is a disgusting belief. Christianity is vile.
True.
All right, hold on.
I used to be a pastor. I never thought that.
Okay, all right. So we all have different opinions here, and it's fine and it's great as long as we remain civil. So I think the Rambam took this approach by even mentioning Islam and Christianity because their overall contribution to his world, not even our world, he was able to acknowledge Islam and Christianity's contribution the Rambam was born in 1135 to 1205 of the Common Era. Now, fast forward to now that we can't even acknowledge that this is still an ethical movement, right? So the Rambam even goes further. He teaches that one's allowed to teach Torah to Christians to draw them to our religion, but he says you shouldn't do it to Muslims. So even though he himself considers Christianity idolatry, it seems that he doesn't get stuck on first stage thinking. You can think that a movement is wrong, and even in the Rambam's case, heretical and against the tenets of your religion, and still admire them for the good they do.
I agree with that, but I agree with that. I agree with Maimonides. We want to bring the Goyim to us, their religion to us. We want to bring what they believe to us.
Yeah, but it starts with acknowledging them, using their scales.
That change us. They're preying on us. They want to bring us to them. So it's the reverse of what you're saying. Oh,
but that's a different topic. First of all, us, secular Jews, are not us. Okay, you're someone who doesn't believe in God and at the same time fights against the existence of God is not part of Klal Yisrael. What they may be ethnically Jewish.
Goyim aren't part of Klal Yisrael either.
Who's closer?
So a goy has a couple of commandments that they get right out of. Okay,
Okay,
you
fine.
might not get it. Okay, Baruch Hashem.
I'm not even
But it's
mentioning
like-
Messianic Jews, by the way. I'm not even mentioning Messianic Jews. If I would mention Messianic Jews, put them on par with Hasidic Jews, I mean, I think that we have more of a chance of converting an evangelical Israeli to Orthodox Judaism than we do an atheistical Israeli. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
We got someone in the comments, Victor Diaz, a beautiful comment. Christianity wants to fundamentally change Judaism forever. Rome has been at war against Israel before the Common Era.
And Judaism wants to do the exact same thing. Like whenever you have a counter-missionary rabbi pushing Noahide laws or trying to disprove Christianity, what's he trying to do? He's trying to get you out of Christianity and into a sub-movement within Judaism, which is called Noahidism.
Amen. Because he's doing it for the sake of Hakadosh Baruch Hu.
But they're also doing it for that sake also.
Christians
Their
are
perspective.
Hakadosh Baruch Hu. They're doing it for Jesus Yikmach Shemo. They're not doing it for the same thing.
No, but Asher makes a good point. Asher makes a good point. I think at the fundamental level, if we look at the ethics of Christianity at its purest form, at that level, it does resemble Judaism. So if we can get an atheist Jew to follow those principles, it'll be easier to have them come over to Judaism because it's essentially the same thing.
Right. So, like, I've heard a Noahide teacher, an Orthodox rabbi who educates Noahides, tell Noahides that Noahides are allowed to date atheists and Muslims just because they have this kind of double standard against Christianity, making atheism a bigger friend of Judaism than Christians have been, where they're completely ignoring the Soviet Union. Even the Rebbe, the sixth Rebbe, was tortured by the Jewish communists in the Soviet Union. People don't know that especially left-leaning atheistical Jews are the biggest enemies of religious Jews.
Mhm.
That we have to judge people with the people they happen to live around today. I'm trying to compare Jews of today with Christians of today. And I'm not even mentioning Messianics or Hebrew rooters, right? Because you know how I feel about them. I mean, I consider them Jewish. I'm talking about a Christian, a Michael Brown Trinitarian who, you know what, will give you the shirt off his back. And really, he doesn't know why. And that's the biggest attack I have against Christians, that they're not consistently ethical. I don't think that's going to last. Why? Because they're doing it because this is how someone else behaves. But we do it because we have these laws black and white in front of us. So we have a standard to aspire to. The average Christian doesn't necessarily have that standard. So then I don't think it's going to last. But that doesn't mean that it's wrong for us to applaud their efforts in what they do get right.
There's a gentleman with the name Israel with the menorah in the room wants to speak. He keeps raising his hand. Maybe he wants to speak.
Okay,
now.
yeah, sure.
Oh, shalom. Hey, Rabbi, how you doing? Coming back, I may try to hop in these every once in a while, but it sounds to me everyone keeps going back and forth on this particular issue, and being somewhat in the realm of apologetics, for the Tanakh, for Halakha and everything else. I really think the root issue is the New Testament itself. It's not necessarily Messianic. It's not necessarily Catholic or whatever beliefs they've attached to themselves. You can believe, as we know, in whatever Messiah that you want to believe in and be ethical. But the problem is that the New Testament, it says one thing on one hand, and then it contradicts itself a few verses later. And this is in almost every instance of theological discourse that Paul brings up and everything else. So you can use the New Testament for good. You can say, you can keep the commandments and be ethical. But on the flip side, you can also use the New Testament to say the exact opposite, and that the Jews are the synagogue of Satan, et cetera, et cetera. You should not keep the law. The law is a curse.
But that's a non sequitur, because I'm not posing Judaism versus Christianity. I'm posing Christianity versus atheism.
But neither one has Kedusha to it.
No, honestly, but in life, the best is the enemy of the better. That we're not dealing with perfect belief systems. There's some that are more ethical than others. So why is it hard to say that better a religious Christian than an atheistical Jew? I mean, why is that hard to say?
No, it's not hard to say it at all. No, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you on that front as far as the ethics are concerned. But the idea is still there in the New Testament that breeds a lot of the anti-Semitism that we've seen in the past 2,000 years.
Sure.
Well, look, that's kind of my issue with the whole New Testament altogether.
Practically proven that American Christians are the most charitable people on the planet. No one, I mean, not even Jews take that. I mean, maybe Jews should try to be more charitable. But to say that it's based off of Judaism because they're doing it because Judaism is their fundamental basis of their religion, that's kind of a little weird to say. I mean,
there's a Spanish commercial. I'll translate it into English. I'm sure Eduardo probably knows about this. It was this gay guy called Sammy, right? Producto Sammy. So translated from Spanish, he said, "If you look good, I look better." Every time I see a Christian act ethical because his Bible tells them to do so, it makes us look better. You understand that? Because what solidifies the fact that this book works, even though they've added 27 more books that makes them do a detour, in my opinion, the wrong direction, it's still giving credence to our Bible. So every time a Christian does something good in this world, it makes Jews look better. But if we don't take credit for that and just exclude them and call them names and say, you know what, better you believed in nothing than believed in that.
I'll take one better then. Why don't we go one better? Why don't we go with Islam? I mean, Islam has all the benefits of Christianity and has none of the downsides. It doesn't have the idolatry.
Muhammad never claimed to be from.
Well, if that's what he's saying, if he's saying, well, Christians are out there and they're doing the work of the Lord and it's making Jews look good, well, Muslims, they believe 90% of what Judaism believes in. So that makes us look even better than Christianity, because Christianity is what, 60%?
They never claimed to be Christians. Claim to be a branch of Judaism.
Well, no, Muslims believe that. I mean, Muslims believe that Torah is the word of God, and that Moses is the prophet and that the Jews received the commandments from Mount Sinai and all of that.
I don't think there's a debate.
Yeah.
I mean, if Jesus, assuming that he did exist, I don't think there's a debate that he wasn't Jewish. I mean, everyone acknowledges that if he did exist, for sure he was Jewish. But to answer your question, John's question, with Islam, the reason I started with Christianity is because that was what was on the table. The whole God TV thing, the Christian television station in Israel. But I'll tell you what,
Who's trying to take it off?
I rather every secular Jew or every left-wing anti-religious Jew adopt some moderate form of Islam than remain secular.
Can I push you on this then, Rabbi? Would you say even better than accepting Christianity, better that they accept Islam over Christianity?
Well, no.
No. That's what I'm asking you. I'm saying, I'm asking you, put on the spot, drop Christianity, go with Islam.
No, okay. Christianity is a lot more ethical than Islam, and even the Rambam acknowledges whether you could teach Torah to Christians but not to Muslims. Why? Because Christians don't walk around saying that we have a corrupted Torah. That's what Muslims teach.
Right, but Maimonides, the famous, we spoke this on my show, Christians are good people that believe in bad ideas, and Muslims are bad people that believe in good ideas. Isn't it better what you're saying because of the belief? You're saying not the person level, you're saying the belief level is what matters. You seem to be saying. I'm saying I would be on the record for saying Judaism is
so you're saying that Muslims are bad people.
Well, I was quoting Maimonides. Maimonides says that Muslims are not good people, but believe in good ideas. That Islam is a fundamentally good religion, but Christianity is a fundamentally bad religion. But Europeans that believe in it is fundamentally good people. That was his perspective on it.
I think you're paraphrasing a lot.
Have you ever read the Quran?
Yeah, I read some of it. Yeah, I read parts of it.
Like, if you put a percentage on it, how much of it have you read?
Oh, that's a good question. Maybe 20%, maybe 30%, a good chunk.
So you would find. So if you did read the whole thing, you will find that the Quran is fundamentally against a lot of the teachings that we find inside of the Torah.
So is Christianity.
Let's see. I'd push you on that. I'd push you on that, but every time you jump in, right, you don't let me get points across. But Islam is completely diametrically opposed to a lot of the foundational stuff we find inside of the Torah, where I can show you that in the New Testament, the New Covenant, that it's not, right?
So what's an example of that? Give us an example.
So even your interpretation of the synagogue of Satan,
us an example.
I will. Even your interpretation of the synagogue of Satan is flawed.
Yeah.
So what does that actually mean from your theological perspective? Because there really isn't a guaranteed interpretation on it, but people usually take it as a negative way.
So let's let the text.
The text can't speak for itself. We don't learn like that. Jews don't learn like that. There's always a definition for what we believe in, right?
I get that.
These commandments, right? The text has definitions.
I don't want to do a Bible study. I just wanted to say that it says they're a synagogue of Satan, but it's those who say they're Jews, but they're not. So,
right.
So this could have been a group of people who claimed to be Jews that weren't. That were doing wrong things.
In context, he was speaking to Pharisees, which are quote unquote regular, modern Orthodox Jews.
This is a apocalyptic literature where John has a vision, really, and Jesus is speaking to them to give a message. So, and I mean, listen, you can't just push that kind of stuff aside because you have the Hekkalot literature in the Tanakh.
Judaism is about as well. The basics. Torah was given for earth. It wasn't given.
Hold on, guys. All right. But the question is, if it was Islam that was being preached, would I want them to become Muslim? Again, I would have no problem with them adopting a moderate form of Islam. I personally would rather them become Christian than Muslim because I think that it's easier to convert a Christian to Orthodox Judaism than it is to convert a Muslim, because a Christian doesn't say that we have a corrupted Torah. A Christian, not a Messianic, would say that the Torah has been fulfilled and may not be applicable, or at least the ceremonial laws, because every Christian adheres to the ethical laws in the Torah. So that's why I would prefer him to be Christian. There are ethical Muslims as well also, but we see their philosophy ultimately catching up with them just because they've departed from the Torah. But every Christian walks around with a Torah under his arm, right? I mean, it's not comparable. So anyway,
ethical guidelines or principles in Islam don't mirror the Torah?
I don't think that Islam improved or embellished on the ethical, but they only improved on the narrative. In their perspective, improved on the narrative. Like believing someone as the final messenger or the final prophet has nothing to do with ethics. That's ceremonial.
No, but I'm asking just in terms of the ethics, do they not mirror Judaism?
They do mirror Judaism, but look, to be honest with what Islam does with the Torah, Islam doesn't say that the mitzvot, the ethical commandments in the Torah, are corrupted. They say that the narrative is corrupted. So one example they would give is Ishmael being sacrificed instead of Isaac. Now that has nothing to do with ethics. That has to do with narrative. By the simple fact that Muslims don't study the Torah but just study the Quran, I don't think the Quran upholds ethics as well as Jews do, even though Islam is really just a corrupted form of Judaism, right? Here, with the exception that Jews just feel obligated to sanctify the Holy Land, and Muslims feel obligated to sanctify the whole world with their beliefs, and which is why we only decapitate people in the land of Israel, and they'll decapitate people anywhere, at least according to their ideology. It's like a misguided attempt to replace and improve on the Torah.
I asked the question because, I'm wondering if you have an atheist Jew who, say, converts to Islam, right? And if they practice Islam to the purest ethical,
a moderate form of Islam, could they not eventually
go back to Judaism with further study?
I would not even say that, Gregory. I would say that they are practicing Judaism in a weird way, because technically it's just a warped version of it. No,
but
no way.
It doesn't meet the halachic standards for a kosher observance of Judaism. If it was like that, well, then you would have to acknowledge that Messianic Jews are also keeping Judaism in a kosher manner.
Okay, you're right. You got me on that. It's not a halakhically. Yeah, you're right. You got me. I just want to say welcome to G-Man. We got kind of a big name in the house, Rabbi. Are you ready for G-Man? I don't know if you can go toe to toe with G-Man, man.